La classe non è acqua, ma sull'acqua si può navigare.
You can't buy class, but you can navigate with class. This is ALFASTREET 32 cabin. After trying her younger sisters, today I'm on the French Riviera to try the latest addition to the Slovenian shipyard, but in a new original version. Have you ever seen an ALFASTREET with outboard engines? Welcome to the boat show. Let's get to know this boat right away. Overall length 10.10 metres, maximum beam width 2.99 metres. It displaces 4,300 kilos empty. It can carry 400 litres of fuel, 117 of fresh water and 12 passengers, including the owner. The registration category in the European Union is B. The deck plan is very similar to that of the smaller models designed by the Italian studio called Teruzzi Design. But here there is one trait that immediately catches the eye. That is the outboards at the stern, which involve the application of two brackets on the transom. Keep in mind that having outboards means that the engine room does not exist and the aft locker is free, which means it's great for storage. So what do you think? Is this space enough for you? If you don't want to open the entire tailgate every time you need to store a small item, well, no worries, because under the large sun deck, which has the folding backrest, there is another storage space. It is easy to access the cockpit through the two mirrored hallways, which are safe during navigation thanks to the two gates. In front of the sun deck, in the forward area of the cockpit, there is one of the two kitchens that can be set on board the new ALFASTREET 32. The other kitchen can be set inside, meaning below deck in the hallway. However, if you do not want this layout, there is not a problem, because instead of this arrangement, you can opt to have another one, for example, a seating area. In the centre of the cockpit, a folding teak table with cup holders, which is a fundamental thing on a boat. And then to complete the design of the cockpit, there are two side benches that can be transformed into chaise lounges. These are also modular, which means that you can choose the type of seat you want, a bench like this here, or whatever other type you prefer. It is important to know that these modules are not in fiberglass but in steel, which makes them super strong and long-lasting over time. In the cockpit there is lots of storage space with the possibility of installing drawer refrigerators under the seats. The steering position and the console are inspired from the laws dictated by the automotive sector. The black wood is wrapped in soft and elegant lines that synergistically seek that minimal and high-tech feel that we're used to seeing in some of the most beautiful dashboards of our favourite four wheels. The touch of class is the lighting system that surrounds the entire area. The only problem is that we can't show you it because, unfortunately, you can't see it in daylight. The co-pilot seat can be a sofa, as in this case, but if you prefer it, it is also possible to have two seats similar to that of the wheelhouse. The windshield is full beam, made up of three distinct materials: tempered glass, steel frame and polyethylene for the joining with the deck. Its shape provides excellent protection from both the wind and the splashes of water during navigation, and its central opening grants great safety for the passing from stern to bow, even during navigation. At the bow there is the bare minimum teak deck, a low rail, and possibility of further opening towards the inside. Once you drop anchor, this is a great place to relax and enjoy the sun. Well, that is when the sun is not hiding behind the clouds. Below deck, a comfortable cabin for two people that can be transformed into a living area thanks to the retractable table and separate bathroom. The interior setup can be in its basic version with gel coat, or, like the one you are seeing on this unit, in its luxury version.
I have
to say that getting back at the wheel of an ALFASTREET gives me a family feeling, because I've already tried two models and this is my third one. The pilot station is the typical one of the Slovenian shipyard.
Una cosa però è diversa, e infatti mi sento scoperto. Ve lo ricordate normalmente?
But one thing is different. In fact, I feel sort of exposed, uncovered. What I mean is that normally on these boats there has always been a hydraulic hardtop which completely covers the cockpit area, but it was not mounted on this boat that was presented in Cannes in 2021. Obviously, if you want to buy it today, you can have it put on.
E quindi questo nuovo 32 presenta già ben due grandi differenze.
So this new 32 already has two major differences. The first one I just told you about, and that is the non-presence of the hardtop. The second is the outboard propulsion, which means a completely different weight arrangement. I expect the centre of gravity to be lower, thanks to the lack of superstructure positioned so high. However, the outboard engines remove the weight from the deep keel and rest it all on the transom, and therefore I'm very curious to see how the hull will react to this weight shift. As always, let's start by bringing it to ploughing mode.
6 nodi, 7 nodi,
6, 7, 9 knots. We are on plane.
Come mi aspettavo, il peso del fuoribordo tiene la
As I
poppa.
expected, the weight of the outboard keeps the stern slightly lower, and therefore the tip of the boat rises. But, as you can see, the steering position on this type of boat is positioned much more forward than normal, and therefore this allows us to lift up the bow and continue to have good visibility ahead. To find the right trim, we have to get around 20 knots. The boat settles down. The tip of the boat comes down and it begins to have a good impact on the sea.
Oggi a poppa abbiamo due
Today on board we have two Yamahas with 250 horsepower each. That's a total of 500 horsepower for this new ALFASTREET 32 outboard. As we mentioned before, the design is by the Italian Studio Teruzzi Design, but the hull was designed by Studio Navalhead by Andrea Agrusta. So, with this hull and the 500 horsepower on the transom, what speed can we reach? The shipyard declares that you can easily top 40 knots. So, today, as always, I have two goals. One, to reach 40 knots, and two, to top them.
Certo, il concetto di questa barca è quello non di una barca che deve andare.
Although this is more an elegant design boat, which doesn't have the aim to seek maximum performance, I have to admit that on these rough waters it behaves really well.
Davvero bene. Quindi.
So let's veer. Following sea and full throttle.
Gas tutto aperto.
Can you hear how the engines are roaring back there? Let's start to turn up the trim. We're at 38 knots, 5,400 RPM.
Alzo il trim e vado a ricercare ancora più leggerezza sullo scafo.
I'm raising the trim and seeking a bit more lightness on the hull. As a matter of fact, the tip is lowered. I can sense that the hull touches the water much less and even the helm much more manageable. We have already reached 42 knots. This means we reached our first goal. Now it's time to find the maximum output of this ALFASTREET 32 outboard. Let's turn up the trim a little more. 5,700 RPM. 43.2 knots. 6,000 RPM. 43.8 knots. Will we be able to hit 44? Yes, already done. 44.2. Let's touch the maximum trim limit.
E la sua velocità massima di oggi.
And our top speed today is 44.2 knots. Well done, ALFASTREET.
Bravi ALFASTREET. Certo è vero quindi che la
So it's true that you can't buy class, but the new ALFASTREET 32 outboard navigates with class and really well on the water.
davvero bene.